Hello everyone. Second news update for today, 9th of September. Now it's 6 o'clock in the evening Moscow time, and well, we have a breaking news, dear friends. I was planning to record second update from on the streets of Moscow in a walking talk style, but very moment that I was planning to go out, I checked the news, and well. What a news, man. Israel attacked Qatar in attempt to assassinate negotiators from Hamas that were in Doha, capital of Qatar at the moment, and were planning to engage in the negotiations under the latest Trump's proposal. So this is not the first time, by the way, not the first time when US President Donald Trump was actually engaged indirectly in a deception operation, as a result of which people get killed, by the way. Uh, I mean, this is something extraordinary, really. This is a developing story, dear friends. At this point, I'll give you what is known, and same time I will monitor, I will check Telegram channels that are reporting latest news on the matter. So RIA Novosti, one of the leading Russian news agencies, are reporting that IDF strikes senior Hamas officials in Qatar, Doha, by the way. For whatever reason, RIA Novosti forgot to tell this in a headline. So the Israeli army said it had struck senior Hamas officials. The Israeli army and the Israeli security agency carried out a precise strike on senior Hamas officials, the army's Telegram channel stated. As reported by Israeli TV channel 12, IDF struck Hamas leaders in Qatar. There is no precise information about the results of the attack yet. Al Arabiya TV channel, citing sources, claims that the Israeli strike killed Hamas leader in the Gaza Strip, Khalil al-Hayr, and three other members of their movement's leadership, Khalid Mashal, Zaher Jabarin, and Nazar Audallah. In turn, Al Jazeera, citing its sources, is claiming that Hamas leadership and members of the delegation led by Al-Hayya survived this Israeli attack. Israel notified the US and Qatar before striking Doha. What a relief, isn't it, that capital of Qatar was informed that they're going to be bombed now. According to Israeli Hayom newspaper, Hamas said Tel Aviv attacked its delegation during the talks. The attack took place during the discussions of US President Donald Trump's proposal for a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, one of the movement's leaders told Al Jazeera. The Qatari Foreign Ministry criticized Tel Aviv's actions. They condemned their strikes on residential buildings where several members of Hamas political bureau lived, stressing that Israel had put the lives of the Emirate citizens and the foreign residents at risk. Qatar strongly condemns this attack and states that it will not tolerate Israel's reckless behavior and the continued actions that undermine regional security and are directed against its own security and sovereignty, the ministry said. This state institution also called the attack criminal and cowardly, noting that it violated international law. So at this point, dear friends, there are different reports. Some sources are saying that as a result of this Israeli attack, members of the delegation, Hamas delegation in Doha, were killed. Other sources are reporting that this is not the case, that they survived. Right now, I'm checking, dear friends, media outlets, Telegram channels, and we have report, for example, according to Al Arabiya, Qatar stops mediation efforts in Gaza after IDF strikes. This is, I will say, quite important development. According to other reports, Netanyahu personally oversaw the operation to assassinate Hamas leaders in Doha. Also, unnamed Hamas officials told Al Maudin, a pro Hezbollah Lebanese outlet, that all delegation members in Doha survived the Israeli attack. Saudi Arabia, after granting Israeli jets clearance to use its airspace, has condemned the Israeli strikes on Doha. What a cowards, by the way. What a cowards and scum of humanity are in the leadership of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and all the other freaking so-called kingdoms in the region, by the way. I mean, total scum of humanity, these animals are, man, right? Clearly, by the way, fucking animals, man. I'm telling you, Saudi Arabia opened airspace for Israel to strike other country and then condemn this attacker. Freaking cowards, man. Unbelievable, right? Also, when it comes to scum of humanity that's in charge of Qatar, by the way, according to reports, Qatari F-15s were in the skies at the very moment when Israeli jets were bombing Qatar, right? And they did nothing. They did nothing, by the way, right? They deserve this, by the way. The Saudi Arabia and Qatar and all the others, Jordan and Kuwait, Bahrain, they deserve no respect, by the way, whatsoever. They are treated by Israel as a cowards, as a dirt, right? And maybe rightfully so. Maybe rightfully so, because they have no self-respect, by the way. I mean, 100%, right? They have no dignity. These so-called royal families there. Total scum of humanity, right? What else is reported, by the way? So that's it. That's it for breaking news for this moment. Allegedly, 10 to 15 Israeli jets carried out these strikes, and there was some 10 explosions heard, right, in the area, and that's about what we know for this moment about these strikes. But I'm telling you, by the way, these so-called royal families, by the way, who tell them they are royals? It's a British appointed royals, right? It's a British appointed scum of humanity that is being designated as some royal families in the Middle East. They are no freaking royals, man. They are nobodies, right? And people there should rebel if they have any self-respect, because this is just, I mean, intolerable, really. This is intolerable, period, right? So that's the breaking news, sir. That's the breaking news. By the way, Israel did what Israel does their best, try to kill people. God knows how successful they were, but well, they don't care anyways, right? If they were unable to kill these Hamas members, and there are some, several dozen or several hundred civilians on top of that, as they love it to do, right? Israel is low, by the way, when they kill like hundreds and thousands of civilians, right? If they did not manage to do it now, they will do it later on. Who's going to stop them? You tell me, who's going to stop this fascist entity that Israel is to continue this rampage basically all over the Middle East? And it's only a matter of time, and because they are unchallenged, they might begin killing people outside of the Middle East. And they already have done it, by the way, on numerous occasions, right? So that's when it comes to this attack that Israel conducted on Hamas representatives during the negotiations, by the way. I mean, and yet again, according to reports that I see, dear friends, US was directly involved in this attack, in organization of this attack, but because rumors began circulating a few minutes after the strike that these Hamas negotiators survived, Israeli side make a claim that US has nothing to do with it. If they manage to kill them all, then probably Trump will come out and say that, well, it was a successful attack, and he promised that he's giving last warning to Hamas, and well, he kept his word, right? He killed them all. That's what would happen. But because rumors are that this Palestinian delegation survived, Trump is keeping quiet now. Let's see, maybe later on he will say something about it. And this is not all when it comes to breaking developments. India today reported early on that Nepal's president resigns due to chaos that erupted in this Himalayan country or quasi-state, let's say. So Nepalese President Ramchandra Paudel has resigned, aimed mass unrest in the country, according to Negotiators. Although, by the way, simultaneously to this report, there was other reports that were denying that this personality has resigned from position of a president. Although, same time, we have reports that this resignation of a president happened few hours after Prime Minister of Nepal, Sharma Oli, have resigned, right? And there are very disturbing videos are coming from Nepal. By the way, these resignations did not stop this crowd, angry crowd or angry mob, to go on rampage and kill anybody they did not like her. They went to houses of current and former state employees, began torturing them, killing them, butchering them. Right? I don't know, man. It's disturbing what is happening in Nepal, and God knows what is going to happen there next. Who's gonna overtake their power? But country is definitely in terrible situation. According to reports that I see, some 300 to 400 Russian tourists are right now in Nepal, and hopefully they will all manage to escape unharmed from this rabid crowd that is running around there, killing anybody they want, torturing anybody they want. It's insane, by the way. I saw some videos that I cannot even share on the Telegram. That's how disturbing they are. They are drowning people in rivers, by the way, burning alive some people's women, men, young, old. They don't care, man. They created a rabid crowd, right? Went on rampage there. Behind this unrest is, of course, Western Secret Services, no doubts about that. And that's been said, dear friends. As I said, I was going out to record the second news update when this report came in about Israeli strike on Qatar, and I decided to make a live stream. Therefore, but nevertheless, I have prepared a second news update, and I will give you some of this news anyways, right? And meanwhile, time to time, I will check for some updates about this Qatari story. But I'm telling you, dear friends, what are shameless creatures those so-called leaders of this Gulf so-called kingdoms are, man. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, people of Qatar, do they have any self-respect, or people of Saudi Arabia, do they have any self-respect? Because those so-called royal families, definitely not. They all are sluts of Israel, right? I mean, it's just factual. But anyways, fuck him all, right? RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that our U.S. permanent representative to NATO announces that Kiev is ready to freeze a front line. Easy if Russia is interested in that. But anyways, let me give you some details on that. So Ukraine is ready to agree to end hostilities with Russia along the current line of contact. U.S. permanent representative to NATO, Matthew Whitaker, said in an interview with the Fox News, they are ready to freeze the front line if they receive security guarantees, he said. In his opinion, conditions that will allow Kiev to stop the conflict could be a system of guarantees with the presence of European troops as instructors or peacekeepers. The diplomat admitted that the agreement could include the protection of the parishes of the Russian Orthodox Church and the Russian-speaking population in Ukraine. Yes, Moscow going to trust protection of Orthodox Church and the Russian speakers to freaking criminal regime of Zelensky and his Western terrorist backers. I mean, come on, man. You cannot be serious. But that's the level of political class in the collective West, by the way. Total morons, right? They probably are unable even to understand what they're talking about. Probably they lost understanding of the words that they use. He also acknowledged the existence of obstacles to the country's accession to NATO, stating, however, that the time for this has not yet come. So, U.S., by the way, on one hand, this Trump's administration is, of course, engaged in a deception operation to fool Russia, right? And they are making some statements, how they would like to see peace, right? Long-lasting peace and stuff like that. But in other hand, they are allocating thousands of cruise missiles to Ukrainian terrorists, and still to nowadays, by the way, pushing this narrative that, well, maybe not today, but tomorrow or day after, Ukraine may join NATO. And same time, very same US, by the way, and this creature, Whitaker, whatever his freaking name is, represents Trump, right? He represents Trump's administration, US, right? And they are still pushing narratives so that NATO troops to be deployed on Kiev-controlled territory. This would not fly in Moscow. Russian president, all the other high-ranking officials were very clear on that. So therefore, let them try, man. Let them bring in their troops. And there are also body bags for them, because they would need it, for sure, right? TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting that Russian armed forces take control of DPR's largest mine near Krasnoarmeysk, which is Pokrovsk, by the way, I believe. Russian name Krasnoarmeysk, Kiev regime calls it Pokrovsk, whatever. Russian troops have taken control of the territory of the largest coal enterprise in the DPR, the Pokrovsk mine administration, west of Krasnoarmeysk. That is Pokrovsk. Advisor to the head of DPR, Igor Kimakovsky, told the TASS news agency, and we have quotes here, our units entered the territory of the administrative and the production complex of the Pokrovsky mine administration near Udachny settlement. Kimakovsky said. He added that heavy fighting is taking place on this section of the front, and Kiev is sending reinforcements and mechanized brigades into their battle. And this interview of Kimakovsky was quite a telling one, big one. Right, and we have some more statements from Kimakovsky. For example, this news with the headline that Russian armed forces took under the fire control the logistics routes of the Ukrainian armed forces near Krasny Liman is also coming from Kimakovsky, I believe. So Russian drone operators have taken control of the Ukrainian group's logistic routes near Krasny Liman. This was reported to TASS by the advisor to the head of DPR, Igor Kimakovsky. And we have a quote here, our drone operators are complicating their enemy's logistics in Krasny Liman by taking fire control of the routes around the city, which is, of course, success story for the Russian military. Lately, we all have seen many reports about progress of the Russian armed forces in Seversk and Liman and Kupiansk direction. This is northern sectors of their front line, and this report confirms basically this progress. Also, another news, dear friends, from RIA Novosti, that Ukrainian armed forces have deployed the Latin American mercenaries towards the Krasnoarmeysk, which is Pokrovsk once again. I believe this information is also coming from Kimakovsky. So the Ukrainian armed forces have deployed Latin American mercenaries near the Krasnoarmeysk to strengthen their group. Igor Kimakovsky, advisor to head of DPR, reported, and according to him, dear friends, earlier Azov formation was deployed in this direction, the Nazi Azov formation, and after they suffered the heavy losses, I guess as a reinforcement, this Latin American, mostly Colombian mercenary formations have been sent in Pokrovsk direction too. Well, they will find their last stand, the majority of them, I guess. And this is not all, by the way, when it comes to Latin America, this region is becoming definitely like a leading source of mercenaries for all sorts of private military companies. And we have a report that females from Latin America also being recruited as mercenaries to go to Ukraine. So report is that Ukrainian armed forces are recruiting women now from Latin America to participate in the combat operations. RIA Novosti found out based on the data on the social media. Thus, on the page of the Center for Recruiting Foreigners, a mercenary from Colombia with their call sign Queen invites residents of their mainland to go to Ukraine. I mean, residents of Colombia to go to mainland, stating that their new female volunteers from her country, as well as Brazil, Mexico, and Peru, arrived there every day. At the same time, the recruiter emphasized that candidates with the medical education and the experience to work as military doctors on the front lines are most in demand. And well, I guess soon, not just Colombian mercenaries are gonna end up being exterminated, but also, well, females from Colombia and other Latin American countries gonna find their last day somewhere in the fields of these former Soviet republics. Okay, if that's what they want, by the way, if that's what they want, okay, I mean, we can help them to go to hell, right? TASS news agency is also reporting that, according to Russian Defense Ministry, during the previous 24 hours, the regime lost 1,400 military personnel, almost 1,500, all along the frontliner. A regular report, by the way, regular statistics, usually daily losses of a Kiev regime is 12, 13, up to 1,500 military personnel, and quite often I'm reporting about updates from Russian Defense Ministry. Also, dear friends, RIA Novosti is reporting that Ukrainian armed forces lost up to 70% of their troops in the counterattacks in the Sumy region, which is quite a lot, isn't it? This explains how that this high level of losses, daily losses on the Kiev regime side. Ukrainian armed forces lost up to 70% of their troops deployed in the counterattacks in the Sumy region. Russian security agencies told the RIA Novosti, according to sources, their enemy made 2 unsuccessful attempts in the Alexeyevka area and 4 near Andreevka. The combined firepower destroyed up to Russian militaries basically destroyed up to 70% of the personnel of the enemy who took part in these attacks, which is quite a lot. Russian militaries also destroyed self-prepared artillery unit Bogdana and the Gvozdika and 2 American armored vehicle, Humvees, right? Okay, dear friends, this is about this counteroffensives that Kiev regime is conducting in the Sumy region. I call these counterattacks suicide operations, and well, Russian security service is confirming this information. When unit company, for example, goes for offensive and loses 70% of its manpower, I mean, that's a suicidal operation, isn't it? That's suicidal operation. That unit has lost combat capabilities. Usually, based on military count, once a unit is losing 30-35% of its manpower, it's out of action. That unit is out of action, have to be sent back and reinforced and rearmed, right? And in case of Sumy region, this enemy attacks, during the enemy attacks, they are losing up to 70% of its their military personnel. Quite impressive results there for Russian militaries that are holding their lines in the Sumy region, causing tremendous damage to enemy forces. Kommersant newspaper is also reporting that Chief of General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, Valery Gerasimov's term of service has extended. So Chief of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, Valery Gerasimov, has probably had his military service extended, Vedomosti reports, citing 2 sources close to their defense ministry. Yesterday, Gerasimov turned 70, and on that day, President Vladimir Putin awarded him the Order of Courage. Valery Gerasimov was appointed Chief of the General Staff, first Deputy Minister of the Defense in November 2012. In their entire post-Soviet period, he served in this post longer than all other chiefs of the General Staff, almost 13 years. In 2021, for merit to the Federation of First Degree In 2021, Vladimir Putin approved a law allowing him to extend the military service of the army generals and the marshals upon reaching the age of 70. That same year, amendments were adopted allowing the extension of the civil service terms for people over 70-year-old if they are appointed by the president decrees. In late August 2025, Vladimir Putin extended the powers of the chairman of the investigative committee, Alexander Bastrykin. So yes, Gerasimov is 70 now, but I guess Russian president trusts her in his military capabilities, in his professionalism, and he's extending his mandate to be head of general staff. I guess this will continue until special military operation, and after that, well, Gerasimov probably will get his chance to take a rest and be just a pensioner. Right. Also, interesting news, dear friends, from Financial Times, that Ukraine will face shortage of air defense systems due to slowdown in deliveries from the US after Pentagon's directive deliveries of the missiles for Patriot, Stinger, Hellfire, NASAMS, and ammo for F-16s coming rarely and in smaller numbers, according to this Western propaganda outlet. Ukraine now spending valuable interceptor missiles faster than US can replenish them, which is a good news, by the way, which is a good news. A couple of more 700-800 drone strikes on enemy military and logistical infrastructure there, and who knows, maybe Kiev regime's air defense systems will completely run out of missiles, right? That's what we want. That's what we want, actually. So that's a good news. Also, dear friends, Italian official foreign minister Antonio Tajani, for whatever reason, went to talk about Ukrainian crisis, and he came up with statements that this conflict most likely would not end until Christmas. Well, you don't have to be genius to understand that, of course. But he also went to say that Italy is proposing to conclude a mutual assistance agreement similar to Article 5 of the NATO Charter on a collective self-defense instead of sending troops as a part of a coalition of their willing. So what difference does it make? What difference does it make if they will give Kiev regime this Article 5? That will mean if coalition of willing countries will actually adopt this proposal, then on the very same day that that proposal will be adopted, they are in a war with Russia, open war, direct war with Russia. They are now conducting proxy war against the Russian Federation, but very day they will adopt some laws in their countries similar to this Article 5 to issue some security guarantees for Kiev regime. Very that day they will end up being on receiving end of Russian strikes. It will be war, open war, right? And I don't know if foreign minister of Italy understands this. He might be just too stupid for that, as a vast majority, if not all of their Western so-called elites are, right? But nevertheless, that's the ideas that they are working for. And if one day Italians see Russian missiles over their heads, they shouldn't be surprised, by the way. That's what their leadership wanted, right? And all the questions should be, in that case, directed to their political elites of their Italy. And same goes for Germany, France, UK, and all the others that will be engaged in this and are engaged in this war against Russia. It's quite simple stuff there, right? TASS news agency is also reporting that Poland to close border with Belarus due to Zapad 2025 exercises. Okay. The Polish authorities have decided to close border crossings on their border with Belarus in connection with the Belarusian exercises Zapad 2025 on the night of September 11 to 12. This was announced by Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk before cabinet meeting. Taking into account issues of national security, we will close the border with Belarus, including the railway border crossing, in a connection with the Zapad 2025 exercises on the night from Tuesday to Thursday to Friday. Tusk said his speech was broadcasted by the TVP Info television channel, and Zapad 2025 exercises, by the way, of Russian troops and Belarusian troops will be held from September 12 to 16, September 16 in Belarus. And I read this news, and nothing said there for how long Poland is shutting down border with Belarus. For a time that these military exercises will take place, or beyond that. Hard to tell. Theme of the Russian-Belarusian exercises will be the use of troops groups in their interests of the ensuring the military security of the Russian-Belarusian Union state. The servicemen of the Belarus and Russian plan to practice, among other things, repelling airstrikes and fighting enemy sabotage groups. Participating in the Zapad 2025 exercises will also practice planning the use of nuclear weapons and Oreshnik missile systems. In response to Belarusian and the Russian maneuvers, Poland, together with NATO, is holding divisional exercises Iron Defender, which involved about 34,000 servicemen and 600 units of equipment. So there is military exercises on the other side of the border too. There. So yes, only question I have for how long Poland is intended to shut down border. Maybe forever. I don't know. Maybe for just during this Russian-Belarusian military exercises. We will find out. Meanwhile, dear friends, U.S. administration continues to threaten Russia with the sanctions and tariffs, and everyone else, by the way. And one of the leading figure in these threats now, one of the leading generator of the threats towards Russia, at least verbally, is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And he come up with this post, by the way, that I think worth our attention, at least to laugh, right? So United States and European Union are aligned on the importance of ending the war in Ukraine, and all options remain on the table as a part of a POTUS strategy to support peace negotiations. Business as usual has not worked. We are willing to take stronger measures against Russia, but our European partners must fully join us in this to be successful. I made it clear today when meeting with the EU Commission sanctions envoy David O'Sullivan, Treasury Secretary of US, Scott Bessent stated. And yet again, all we can do, by the way, is laugh at this point whenever we hear from the West statements about more sanctions. Okay, I mean, what we gonna do about it? You want to sanction oxygen that is generated from, by Russian forester? Go ahead and do it, by the way. Let's see what will come out of it. What else they gonna sanction, really? It's from 20 to 30,000 sanctions already in place, right? RT is also reporting that ex-UK Prime Minister, extreme Russophobe, by the way, and scum of humanity, Boris Johnson, is accused of profiting from government contacts. And how surprising is that? Does anybody surprised to hear anything like that? Of course not, by the way. Western so-called elites are most corrupt elements ever, right? And the Western systems, political, economical systems, are built on corruption. So therefore, no one should be surprised, of course, to hear that they are profiteering from their positions. Of course they do. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has profited from contacts and their influence he gained while in office. The Guardian, British media outlet, or so-called media outlet, alleged on Monday, citing a trove of leaked documents. The outlet said it had obtained about 2 gigabytes of files, including emails, letters, invoices, speeches, and contracts from the office of Boris Johnson, the company that manages his post-government business dealings. Most of their material covers September 22 to July 2024, but the trove also includes earlier records from his premiership time. The Guardian highlighted four cases, for example, it described as questionable. Months after taking office in 2019, Johnson reportedly held a secret meeting with billionaire Peter Thiel, a co-founder of US data giant Palantir Technologies, which was seeking UK contracts at the time. Interesting, isn't it? In 2020, Johnson hosted a party for conservative peer David Brownlow, who helped finance renovation of the prime minister's residence, gathering that may have violated the government's own COVID-19 restrictions, the report said. After leaving the office, Johnson allegedly lobbied Saudi officials he had met while in power and built a hedge fund six figures following a visit to Venezuela. Money, the Guardian claimed, may have been payment for meeting two countries' leadership. I mean, these people, man, these people, unbelievable. The newspaper said it was their only UK outlet given access to leaked files by distributed Daniel of secret DDoS, US-based non-profit transparency group that obtained the cash earlier this year. So yes, Boris Johnson kind of in hot waters again, but this clown is in hot waters constantly, by the way, right? Constantly. And somehow he's managing to stay fleet, how you say, stay stay float. Yeah. And you know what is floating on the water, isn't it? And that's what Boris Johnson is actually. Right? Is scum of humanity, by the way. I mean, directly guilty in the death of hundreds of thousands of people. How this clown is still alive, man? Why this is allowed to happen, man? I just don't get it. Also interesting information, by the way, that Kaya Kallas went in parliament, in Ukraine's parliament, by the way, to do some speech about additional aid, or financial aid and military aid to Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky. And on your screen, dear friends, you can see a picture made during the speech of Kaya Kallas. Barely 10-15 people were in the room at the time of her speech. I'm gonna give you a video, by the way. Maybe on that picture it's not really visible, but I'll give you a short video of that. It's quite a telling, isn't it? Quite a telling to have an idea how important these people actually are. So where is the video file? That's it.
Morning, dear President, dear members of the European Parliament.
Look at this.
International efforts to end Russia's war have stepped up in the last few months, but Russia's response is more aggression. Over the euro in military, including 100...
Let me pause there. It's empty, isn't it? No one is listening, like 10-15 people, maybe. Half of them probably are staff of European Parliament. That's it, man. These freaking clowns, man. These freaking clowns are destroying lives of the hundreds of millions of Europeans, right? It is what it is, man. What else do I have, dear friends, bookmarked for this live stream? I can see only 78 members of the community are on the stream right now, so it's a bad timing, by the way. Again, I mean, 5-6 o'clock, it's not, or 7 o'clock as it was yesterday. It's not good time for me, at least. I guess some big channels have live streams right now. So because of these developments, by the way, with the Israeli strikes on Qatar, I decided to do live stream. Otherwise, I would make a walk and talk video that probably more members of our community would watch. But anyways, couple of more news, dear friends, and that's about it. For this new segment, Iran's FM Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi arrives in Cairo, Egypt, and there are reports that he might have talks with the IAEA head of IAEA, Rafael Grossi. They're in Egypt. I don't know why, but yes, maybe. We will find out. We will find out. If Iran still has any trust into IAEA, then I don't know. I have Mount Everest in Himalayas to sell them. We can negotiate on price there. Unbelievable, man. RIA Nost is also reporting that Xi Jinping is taking a piece on EU. By the way, EU bureaucrats seems like he is also beginning to troll Western elites. That's my impression from this reporter. Against the backdrop of an unstable international situation, China and EU should strengthen cooperation, said Chinese President Xi Jinping during a meeting with the Portuguese Prime Minister Luis Montenegro. Montenegro is visiting China right now, and his visit will last until 10th of September. And yes, I mean, if this is not a trolling, then I don't know what this is, right? Xi Jinping understands perfectly well that your bureaucracy cannot be taken seriously, and that's it. There is no much to add there. Also, dear friends, central bank finance minister of the Russian Federation, Silvano, made some statements about central bank rate, interest rate budget, and oil prices. Let me give you some key points from his statements. Many members of community also like the economical stuff. So Russian finance minister Anatol Sinuvalov gave an interview to RBK media where he told how their budget for the next year was formed, assessed their situation with the central bank rate and the possible sale of Domodedovo airport, which serves Moscow, by the way. The main points are in the RIA Novosti's materials. So to reduce this figure of interest rates, balanced federal budget is needed, Silvano said. We need to lower the key rate and rates in the economy. And to do this, we need to create a balanced budget. Okay, logical. About budget formation itself, Silvano stated that financial plan for the next year was prepared based on the price of Urals oil at an average of $59 per barrel. It seems to me that the forecast made by the Ministry of Economy regarding the price of oil is quite balanced. $59, somewhere around 60 in the following years. Okay. This year, the Ministry of Finance will increase their volume of borrowing within reasonable limits, and in 2026 will plan their budget based on their balanced at the primary level. When working on the sanctions, we need to proceed from current conditions, so we cannot allow for excessive optimism. He said the budget must have reinforced concrete structure to minimize restrictions. One of their main tasks is to draw up financial plan with verified priorities about the future of Domodedovo airport, by the way, that used to be in private hands, but I guess it was managed poorly. So this airport became state owned again, and now state wants to get rid of it, right? And make some income for budget by doing so. So the finance ministry might sell the airport of Domodedovo by the end of the year. There is a plan to sell it, but we'll see if we can do it before the end of the year. We are interested in selling the property complex as quickly as possible, he noted. And yes, that's about it, about some key statements from Silvanov. And that's about it for this news segment. Right now, dear friends, I will go through some Telegram channels to check their some additional information about these strikes. Let's see if there is any more reports. No, there is. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson claims he knows nothing about Israeli strike on Qatar, but repeats Tel Aviv's line that Hamas must be eradicated. Of course, he will. By the way, U.S. Political class is owned by Israeli fascist Israelis, right? So they will do whatever Israelis will tell them. Literally. Whatever Israelis will tell them, U.S. politicians will do. If Israelis will tell them to stay on their knees and bark, that's what they're gonna do on air, by the way, right? Because they all are compromised, and Israel is blackmailing all of them. They are in Israeli pockets. These shameless creatures, by the way, Mike Johnson and all the rest. I don't even want to talk about these dirty freaking animals, man. What else? Let me check if RT is reporting anything. I was checking DD Geopolitics channel right now. I mean, there is some more and more video footage about these strikes, but no additional information. Trump announced that G20 summit in 2026 will be held in Miami, Florida. It's going to be the G20 in the Triumpian Golden Age, whatever that means. So, okay, dear friends, that's about it. I guess no additional information is available. And if you are wondering what Qatar gonna do about these strikes, well, they're gonna do nothing. They're gonna do nothing, man. They are Israeli sluts. I mean, Qatari leadership, right? They are Israeli whores, literally, and they will do nothing. And Saudi Arabia's leadership is Israeli whores, right? They will do nothing too. So Israelis can go around and kill anybody they want anywhere, right? And without any consequences. That's the world we are living in, right? And that's what they do, by the way. They are just killing anyone they want, right? These freaking fascists, man. And that's about it. That's about it for today's live stream. Thank you very much, dear friends, for being here. If I may, I will avoid the question time today. I'm a bit upset that I was planning to record a walk and talk type of video, by the way, and these freaking fascist Israelis, targeted their struck on Doha, and well, change of plans. Anyways, this is it for now. Hopefully, you did find news segment informative and interesting. And if so, please like the video. Leave some commentary afterwards. It might help to deal with their algorithm. And well, that's it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care. See you tomorrow.